Listen, call them what you want. Knee knockers, golden nuggets, thigh slappers, etc. But our friends at Manscaped refer to them as the boys. Now, not every man has children, including me unless you count my cats, and, well, I always do. But every man is responsible for their 2 boys below the waist. When your little guys have more hair than they need, like my cats, trust Manscaped for all your grooming dreams. Boys need love too, that's what I always say. So join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com and use code PRETTYDARK for 20% off plus free shipping. You heard it here first, folks. The boys are back in town. I got my first Manscaped back in 2020, and let me tell you, it got me through those hard times. Just me, my lawnmower 3.0, my cats, a bottle of whiskey. You get the idea. A lot of nude gardening. But none of that would have been possible without the confidence that comes with Manscaped. And I haven't been the same since. The lawnmower family now includes the Lawnmower 3.0 Plus, the 4.0 Pro, and the 5.0 Ultra, which helps reduce nicks, ingrown hairs, and other grooming accidents. Yeesh. Yep, 3 ball trimmers. You better believe it. That's 3 trimmers, not 3 balls. What do you think this is? Some kind of sideshow act? Get out of here! Boys need love too, and for this reason, each trimmer is equipped with skin-safe technology, an LED spotlight so you can shave in the dark, and unique features for different grooming needs. But I gotta say it, skin-safe technology does not guarantee cut protection, don't be an idiot. But you can shave in the shower, or take it outside to shave during a summer afternoon thunderstorm, because these babies are waterproof. Summer vacay coming up? Manscaped has got you covered. These trimmers come with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering and all those weird looks in the airport. Have you ever even seen Fight Club? 9 times out of 10, it's an electric razor, but every once in a while, it's a Manscaped lawnmower. Always imply ownership in the event of a ball trimmer. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PRETTYDARK at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code PRETTYDARK at manscaped.com. For the best your boys have ever looked. Trust Manscaped.
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
the podcast where we talk about all of the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark.
Pretty dark.
We all make mistakes.
You're right. We do.
Nobody's perfect, Kaylin.
Hannah Montana taught me that.
You know, some of us make more mistakes than others. I pride myself on my home improvement, abilities, my antics.
I know where we are now. This is okay.
And, you know, when we first got comfortable with the podcast, I started to introduce Christian's house corner, home improvement corner, home advice.
Tool time, but your version of it for That's Pretty Dark.
Tool time with me.
Yeah.
And you also know that I'm replacing the rest of the windows in my house.
I do know that, yes.
You know, so while the furniture's clear, I'm trying to clean behind everything, you know, cat hair, whatever. I've lived here for 10 years. It's
There's
wonderful.
cat hair in every nook and cranny.
It's also time to start repainting some stuff. So I'm refinishing an entire wall where my fireplace is and everything. But what you shouldn't do while you're doing that is when you're trying to quickly rush into your office to record a podcast episode and you're trying to clean up and be prepared and be like a person.
An eternal struggle for you.
You shouldn't leave your sink running.
No.
When you're trying just to fill it up with some hot water to rinse your brushes. You shouldn't walk away from that.
Did you flood your bathroom?
And let it flood your bathroom.
Don't do that.
That's what happens.
Don't walk away from a faucet that's on, is your moral of your story.
Right. You probably also shouldn't wash your paintbrushes in your sink, but I was in a hurry. And
I've done it. We've all done it, haven't we, guys? We've all been there.
There's water in the cabinet drawers. I opened them up and they're like little pools.
Oh, no.
Water's just spilling everywhere. It was great.
Do you not have one of those, like, overflow?
No, not in this one. There's
like a hole that prevents that from happening? No? Okay.
No. This is an old sink. This was built
pre that. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully, a lot of us millennials may or may not have to worry about that. My house was built in the 80s and it has those little overflow
safety mechanisms for those of us with ADHD or Christian. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope
It's all good.
I hope
It's all
that by
good.
the time that you are done with this episode, you walk out and Sphinx and Atlas have cleaned up the mess for you.
Yeah, everything's out on the floor drying. The drawers are open.
What a time.
It's great. It's good. It's wonderful. It's fine.
You've used words like beautiful and wonderful, and those are not words that you typically have in your vocabulary, so I can't tell if it's a cry for help or...
Yeah, but I'm here and I'm ready to record.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
ready to talk about one of the brightest gems of the dark past.
On That's Pretty Dark, where my name is Kaylin.
And my name is Christian.
And I'm just wondering if you are simultaneously tired of this, Grandpa, and also aware that that's too damn bad.
Well, that's too damn bad!
Because if you are, then you have come to the right place. Ladies, gents, gentle thems.
Y'all.
We're having ourselves a big summer here at That's Pretty Dark.
We sure are.
In doing that, I've decided, for some godforsaken reason, to take on one of the twistiest, turniest, darkest features that we have had the pleasure of covering on this show, or watching in our lives, which is holes. Holes!
You guys didn't get that from all the teasing
that we've done the past like
few
3 or
episodes.
4 episodes. Because once we knew this was happening this summer, we really just doubled down.
So it was 4th of July last week. And so everybody had a long weekend. My girlfriend came over and we were hanging out, watching holes, eating watermelon. It was a fantastic 4th. But I was like, so, hey, well, we're about to cover holes soon. We could watch that. And she was like, no shit. Oh, really?
We haven't been quiet about it because we were too excited. Okay? We were just too excited.
I get excited about holes.
We all love them. We've all got them.
We all have them.
And we're ready today to dig in. And I promise I'm going to stop doing that. Maybe. Just maybe.
I'm not.
You might be asking yourself why we've chosen to feature holes on our show. And while we do creep forward into the early 2000s on occasion, and we have no problem with that, Holes, the novel by Louis Sachar, was published on August 20th, 1998.
All right.
So just in case you felt weird about leaving the 90s, the story itself fits squarely into my 90s childhood school library, book fair, reading list.
Yes.
And likely also yours.
And you guys better get ready because I just bought a new copy of that today and I'm going to read it up before next episode when we jump in. I love to get my play-by-play book movie comparisons. So I'm going to do my best to see,
that'd be great actually. Because I do have some comments on that, but we'll get there as we get there, I
don't know how important it was to you, like the actual book.
Oh, very.
Yeah. Okay, good. Me too.
Yeah.
Me
life-changing. Mm-hmm.
Incredibly. Yes.
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 And speaking of, I'll have you know that when my family went to the theater on that spring day in 2003.
Yeah.
And I remember this vividly, which is not true of most things in my life at the time. I have very, very few memories from this period of my life. But I was presented with a choice of seeing either Holes or the Lizzie McGuire movie.
Oh,
and I wanted to see both equally, but I felt that all too familiar tomboy, anti-female twinge, and I had a little bit of guilt thinking that my dad would have to sit through the Lizzie McGuire movie, and he might not like that.
That's fair. That's fair.
So instead of making my dad sit through an hour and a half of Lizzie, I chose Holes.
Yeah.
But having reached my 30s, I can proudly admit that the Lizzie McGuire movie was, in fact, a cultural milestone in my life and many, many others. And luckily, Holes was too.
Yeah, I think you made the right choice, regardless.
I couldn't really choose wrong that day.
That's like when I was on my 19th birthday. So my family tradition used to be like dinner and go see a movie on your birthday. Like whatever you wanted to see, we'll all go see it.
Your pick.
Everybody told me after the fact how not looking forward to seeing How to Train Your Dragon they were. They were so like, this is going to be stupid. It's a little kid's movie. It's animated. And they thought I was so silly for wanting to see this kid's movie. And then it blew everyone's mind at how just incredible it was.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I feel like I won that birthday year, but
that was always the trick, was just seeing if you could get your family's approval on the movie that you chose.
Yeah, that's how I valued my own self-worth.
Many of us have experienced similar constructs.
But not the point, though. You saw Holes.
I saw Holes that day, and it was a great day, and it lives in infamy because it changed my life. It helped me fall further in love with Shia LaBeouf, which we have plenty to say about that, listener, before you get all up in arms. I promise we will say all the things.
Yeah.
But before we get there, would you like to hear a summary?
What's this movie even about, anyway?
Holes is a delicately interwoven tale following Stanley Yelnats IV, the latest victim of a family curse dating back generations to the days of porcine dowry, forbidden loves, and eventually romantic outlaws. As Stanley is subjected to a brutal summer at a juvenile reform facility in the desert, he wins the trust of his fellow campers, or inmates, and it becomes clear that the history of the camp and its warden are inextricably tied to his own. It also becomes clear that it all comes down to two things in this dusty, despicable life we all live: prejudice, or the lack thereof, and buried treasure.
Ooh, man.
If only I could write a longer summary, I would touch on how Stanley taught us everything we know about cycle breaking, but we will get there.
We were just talking about this before we were recording.
Yep.
She was like, hold on, we're going to get to all that.
It's very important. It's a very important component of this novel and this film, and I love it. And redemption, really, is another
truly
underlying theme.
And another important thing is I'm listening to the Coffin Shakers while recording. Current song while you were reading your summary. Holes of Oblivion.
Hey, thanks, Spotify. Luckily, because last year was the 20th anniversary of Holes this year, being 21 years since it was released, which is crazy to me.
Oof.
I found some really great interviews to pull from Business Insider, People Magazine, things like that, and I'll be pulling quotes from them throughout, so wanted to give them their due.
Nice.
So, let's begin at the beginning of the production story by beginning with the novel itself.
I love this book so much.
Louis Sachar, the author of Holes, is said to have been inspired by the Texas heat in which he grew up and despised doing yard work. At least that's the answer that you get on nearly every homework-adjacent site where kids must be going these days to cheat on their book reports. But it made me laugh, because this was a hell of a lot of story to have been inspired by sweating and mowing the lawn, was it not?
Just doing some yard work.
I wish that inspiration heat stroke on myself, personally.
I honestly wondered if he didn't know anybody who spent time in like a juvenile reform
not as far as we know.
Facility.
But Lewis is nothing if not prolific. Holes is just one of 42 titles written by Sachar, most of which being children's literature. But this and the sequel, Small Steps, are still his most acclaimed titles.
Did you ever read Small Steps?
I did.
I did too.
I read it in school. I mean, I don't know that I read it for school, but I read it when I was in school.
I just got it from Scholastic, a book fair. But yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to...
It's not the same, but it was nice to see the characters again.
That's
how I tend to feel about sequels like that.
I did feel like I was making a difference by reading the book, though. I wasn't, but...
Oh, geez.
I wasn't.
You felt, what's the word?
Self-righteous.
Can't help you.
I was like, I know hard times. Yeah, I read Small Steps. I know it's like
really been there
to live a difficult life.
Oh, geez. But that's what books are for. Books are there to help us get perspective on things that we may or may not get perspective on in our lives. And, there's always lessons we can take with us.
Truly.
Sachar says he never intended to write a grim story and instead wanted it to be fun and adventurous. He wrote Holes so that it could be understood by a 10 or 11-year-old kid, but also prioritized writing to please himself. And I think that really comes through. It actually reminded me a lot of you, Christian, and your approach to children's literature when you're writing it, because you write it for the child within more than anything else.
I do. I try so hard. I want to write good stuff that I enjoy.
I know.
And that other people enjoy. I try so hard.
That's the ticket, really. The narrative of Holes is generally linear, but it also resembles a multispatial and multidirectional narrative similar to features of postmodernism in literature. I think this was one of my favorite things about the book and the movie as a kid, as we end up saying in nearly every episode of That's Pretty Dark. It didn't feel like anything was being dulled down to suit children. It expected us instead to rise up and meet the material and follow all of its intricacies, which made me feel better about myself at the end of the day.
Because you were smart enough to keep up.
I could follow, I could keep up.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because it's empowering for kids, especially at that age, reading novels.
That's actually
like
one of the things I was going to say for different reasons, but I was going to say this is one of the most child empowering stories.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons, but just the basic level of how it's written is one of them.
Kid power, man. Stick it to the adults.
That's right.
Somebody's got to. Might as well be us.
Amen. Holes continues to be well received by critics and was ranked number 6 among all-time children's novels by the School Library Journal in 2012. So it's been a minute since that ranking, but I still think it's well-deserved.
Still, yeah.
The novel spent over 150 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, reaching number 1 for young adult fiction. And much of the praise for the book, which we will be echoing in this series of ours, if you can't already tell, has centered around its complex plot, vivid characters, and representation of people of color and incarcerated youth.
Right.
It won the 1998 U.S. National Book Award for Young People's Literature and the 1999 Newbery Medal for the year's most distinguished contribution to American literature for children.
Wow.
With our frequent mentions of banned books and their accompanying soapboxes on our part, I have to also mention that the selection of Holes as a read-aloud book in elementary school classrooms, especially in 4th and 5th grades, has been challenged several times by parents who question the, quoting, morality of the book. Objecting parents found that the book was, again quoting, not quality literature. And I'm just going to say it.
What?
I don't know if the banned book crowd would know quality literature if it bit them like a yellow spotted lizard.
Nice.
Don't think so.
I was actually wondering aloud while watching the movie if it had ever been banned.
I think that there have been attempts. I don't know that it's been officially banned. Maybe in some places, things are kind of subjective.
I distinctly remember it being read to our classroom, and I also remember reading it for myself too. So I think maybe I loved it so much I got a copy and read it.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised, looking back, that it was read aloud to us.
Yeah.
In school.
It's pretty dark.
It's pretty dark.
As we'll discuss in part 2, I really feel like even the heaviest subject matter, though, was handled in an age-appropriate way in both the novel, from what I recall, and the film.
Yeah.
The only leeway that I'll give these banned book folks is that while the film ended up being rather true to the novel, it's often said that the novel was darker because of the vivid imagery and the way that the novel is able to give much of the violence, emotional distress, and mature themes that we see only momentarily on screen, like bullying, racism, illiteracy, homelessness, poverty, assault, and criminal justice, a lot more space to breathe.
It was just so deep. Like, it really was.
Deep as a hole, you might say.
About 5 feet deep, about 5 feet
deep, 5 feet wide. I'd say it was even deeper.
I feel like this story, the book and then the movie, which, oh my God, I watched the movie how many dozens of times when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Like,
Same.
I haven't watched it since I was young. But so many of the moments, the quotes, like things I'd forgotten completely just felt like almost a second nature. Like it was a memory or a dream I had last night.
Yeah.
Like it was something that I was like, oh my God, there it is.
It was
I've
very
thought
much
about that.
ingrained in me as well.
I just feel like this story as a whole, book and movie together, felt like a religion to me.
They did.
Almost.
Me too. There was something very, very special about this story. Like it really resonated. However close you were or weren't to the material, I think it just really had a way of resonating with kids at the time.
Yeah.
Ourselves
Totally.
included.
Totally.
Anyway, all of this acclaim earned some major Hollywood studio attention, including that of producer Teresa Tucker Davies, who only has associate producer credits on a few action titles, including The Fugitive, Chain Reaction, and Collateral Damage, alongside the film's director, Andrew Davis, who himself was eager to prove that he was capable of more than just action films.
All right.
Unfortunately, Andrew Davis didn't do too much after this, but he did direct the 2006 Ashton Kutcher film The Guardian, which I watched the hell out of. I don't know, I guess because most of my friends in high school were guys. I don't know, but I didn't remember that it existed until I saw it on Andrew Davis's IMDb, and I was like, whoa.
I don't know that I ever saw that.
Whoa. It had to do with the Coast Guard. There was a romance element, I think, because
Is there a scene where he's underwater holding his breath and all that kind of stuff?
Uh-huh.
I totally watched it. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know why. It was big. I don't know, but anyway, same director as Holes. Who'd have thunk? Maybe that's why I loved it so much.
That's awesome.
Or, liked it as much as I did.
Yeah.
I loved Holes, but I liked The Guardian, I'll say.
Right.
At the time. It's been a long time since I watched it, so who knows what I'm advocating for.
Who knows? I watched it, I think, the one time.
Teresa and Andrew were instrumental in bringing Holes to Disney, though, and we all owe them a major, major thank you for that.
Yes.
Quoting from the Business Insider interview, Teresa said, "It was before Harry Potter, before any of those great big family young adult fiction books were being made into films. I read the book and I thought, oh boy, this is it."
Wow.
She knew it.
She could tell.
And she ran with it. She was passionate about the story and its potential as a film. And I don't have a super detailed account of how the deal itself took place, but we do know that Teresa and Andrew approached Louis Sacker and convinced him that they were right for the job adapting the film.
Okay.
And their enthusiasm helped convince Disney to acquire the film rights.
All right.
Davis said Holes was wonderful because it was an independent movie that had studio distribution and financing in place, and that's very rare. Holes was a $20 million venture, and it more than made back its budget. But the production process wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, nor a Girl Scout camp. The next order of business was the screenplay, and Disney hired Richard Kelly, yes, the writer and director of Donnie Darko, to bring it to life.
Damn.
Which he didn't exactly do.
Yeah, what did he do?
This was one of the most interesting things that I feel like I uncovered in my Part 1 research. But Richard Kelly brought a draft back to Disney.
Uh-huh.
And his draft is this dystopian, post-nuclear war, R-rated thriller set in a world where Big Brother is always watching. There aren't any notions of yellow-spotted lizards or Kissin' Kate, and the warden was reimagined as a totalitarian man.
Okay.
An archived article that I read from Bookster said, despite being different and lacking a lot of the heart of Holes, the script stands out in a way completely its own. It highlights the inefficiency of our justice system, along with the systemic racial oppression it continually enforces. It's futuristic, unusual, insanely dark, and political in the most important ways. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, because that doesn't sound like a terrible film on its own, the script did not fly with Disney.
It sounds like he should adapt The Long Walk, Stephen King's The Long Walk, which I don't think you know about.
I have not read, no. Maybe Richard, if you're hearing this,
yeah,
maybe
just
go for
take
that
the same
instead.
concept and apply that to The Long Walk.
This was 20 years ago. You're working on the screenplay, but you never know.
Okay.
Of this situation, Richard Kelly is quoted as saying, I was very naive, and I was convinced that I could convince them that this was the cooler version of the movie. And they were just like, no, we want to make a PG-rated, faithful adaptation of this best-selling book. We have Andrew Davis directing. You're insane. Please sign this contract. We're not going to pay you any more money. We respect you. We like you. But we are moving in a different direction.
How many kids would have been so disappointed?
I will say, too, this script has been made available in its entirety. Somebody uploaded it to a Google Drive, and there is a link floating around. So if you, Christian, or any of our Darklings want to read it, just hit us up, and I can link you to it. But
yeah, send it to me.
Fascinating. I didn't read the whole thing. I started to skim it, and I was like, "Whoa, this is not the Holes that I know.
These aren't the Holes
These holes are unfamiliar."
With. Please send that to me.
I will.
That's so cool.
I figured you would want to check it out.
I'm gonna bind it.
Andrew Davis said once this happened, he was wondering, quoting, what the hell was going on with this project? At this point, I said, you know what? Louis should get credit for this. They're his characters. It's his story. And Louis said that Andy was persistent in having him write the screenplay. Mm-hmm. Louis said at the time, I didn't realize just how special that was, that he was really going out on a limb for me to bring me back to the film. And it also seems like Andrew and Teresa really took Louis under their wing. It was very clear from the interviews that I read and the commentary that they made about the film that they really never wanted to work with another writer, and they really felt strongly about having the mind that originated the story to help them get it on screen.
Right.
Which makes sense to me, and I think that's super cool. It honestly doesn't happen as often as you might think it would.
It's honestly pretty dicey. It's just hard to think of it in a new way. And like reframe it in your mind as a completely different structure. Because you're, as the writer, you're emotionally invested in every single detail.
Everybody knows the feeling of being super close to something, whatever piece of media. When you're that close, it's really hard to be objective, and it's really hard to make changes.
Especially when you did it once and you struck gold, and you're like, how do I not fuck this up?
Yeah.
For Disney.
Like, it can be a total, I can only imagine the pressures of everyone, which is another reason why I think it's so cool that they kind of banded together and stuck together through this process of bringing it to the screen.
Yeah, that is cool.
And speaking of that, to break down the novel's action into a film, the three of these guys storyboarded over 100 scenes on 3x5 note cards.
Awesome.
And I just want to emphasize, having storyboarded a film with Christian, that this is so much work.
Yes.
Like, this is so time intensive just to storyboard all of these details and the whole plot and the way that it weaves together and the way that it weaves together when you're reading it, but then also the way that it needs to weave together visually.
Yep.
It's very intense. And I think that it's cool that they were storyboarding together even as they were rewriting and retooling as he would come with drafts of the script.
That's really cool.
Lewis said that Davis went through and said, now, as you rewrite it, this card should take half a minute. This one should take 3 minutes. This one should take a minute, and so on. Which I think is awesome to be that like visual and visionary as a director to say, this is how the pacing needs to work. And to be able to direct the writer in that way is like a whole other level of director to me.
Yeah.
It's a skill set. It's like a whole different skill set to be able to see it like that.
It is. Yeah, very much. And it's also like how much of a science almost they've made filmmaking too. Because like for anybody who doesn't know, you tell a writer, this needs to last a minute. What does that mean? It means 1 page.
Yeah, roughly.
The way that like the script formatting is that there's enough text on each page and enough blank space on each page to come out to about a minute. That's roughly how it works. So an hour and a half long movie is scene for scene, 90 pages. So to take somebody who doesn't have any experience at all
with screenwriting.
Yeah,
none. And just toss them in the deep end.
And just basically like, tell them exactly how to do it. It can be done. It can be done.
Sacker said, after my initial script got sent out for a rewrite, I sent Andy a long letter detailing different things that I thought were wrong. And Teresa actually told me that Andy kept that letter in his back pocket and referred to it often throughout production.
Wow.
Which I think is cool too. It's like,
that's awesome.
The things that Sacker went out of his way to say, I really don't think we should change this, or like, this is very important to me. Andy kept that with him throughout the process. And it was that's like awesome. The Bible, you know.
That's like true loyalty to like the
to the material. And it really,
material.
That's another like vote of confidence in Sacker. You know, like, we've gotten these notes, or, you know, they want these things to be changed, but we're gonna go with what
that's so smart, because
Sacker's
like,
mind wants.
How many times are movies, I mean, look at movies that are made now that are book adaptations. Like they're terrible.
This is one of few book adaptations that, I mean, the book is great. Don't get me wrong.
Honestly, rivals.
Don't get me wrong. I was about to say, it's one of few that might just edge out the book to me.
There's just so much to it that's so good. Like, there's so many personalities that really bring these characters to life in a way that's honestly hard to do. And it comes down to creatives like the director choosing the material over their own ego or like themselves. Like you can tell the actors did the same thing.
Yes.
They are almost perfect personifications of the book characters. It's just the casting also is just phenomenal.
Yes. Well, I have so much to say about the casting because I think that was one of the biggest, most magical elements of getting this all together. Once they had the screenplay in hand and approved, production could begin. Executive producer Marty Ewing commented that Disney actually wasn't super involved, which surprised me.
Wow.
He said, it's not like they were on the set. It's not like they gave us creative notes that I saw. They didn't really challenge the director's vision at all.
That's so rare.
It surprises me, for Disney, especially. Yeah. But this was in a time when things were kind of siloed and operated a little bit differently. We've just come off the heels of talking about several animated films where there were nothing but studio notes constantly all the time. And I think that is in part because they had so much control over every element, from the, characters to the voices to the animation. They controlled every aspect of it, and the studios really took those reins and ran with them.
Right.
But with something like this, I think they recognized that there were so many moving parts that it was easier if they just let the magic happen. And they, had hired people that they trusted, which was the other the other element.
Wow, there's so much trust happening with this movie, so much loyalty.
There's so much trust and loyalty, yes.
Yeah, faith.
Faith, here. Even. Or maybe once they had read Richard Kelly's draft, they thought, hey, nothing's going to be that bad.
Nothing can be this bad.
Not that the draft was bad, but for the type of movie they were looking to make money off of at that point in time.
Well, yeah, okay, we'll say wrong. Nothing could be.
Nothing could be so wrong as that for us.
Off the mark quite a bit.
Holes was filmed over 10 weeks in the summer of 2002, mostly in California. The vast majority of the desert scenes, including digging all of them holes, were filmed in Ridgecrest, California, in the Indian Wells Valley of the Mojave Desert.
All right.
Some of the scenes involving water, such as the flashback sequences of Green Lake when it was still a thriving town, were filmed at Lake Casitas in Ventura County, California, and on the Disney Ranch. And also, of course, they filmed a good bit of it on sound stages as well.
Yeah.
In one interview, some of the cast discussed being taken to Cudback Dry Lake Bed near where the U.S. Navy tests their missiles in Ridgecrest.
Oh. Okay.
They had to construct a whole tented area where people could get out of the wind or the sun. And much of the cast also had to do 6 to 8 weeks in boot camp to be prepared to be under these weather conditions, because it would get up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit and higher.
That's nuts.
Alex Daniels, the stunt coordinator, actually took the kids to dig holes, literal holes, so that they could get calluses on their hands and like learn how to dig holes, because obviously some of these characters have been out there digging holes for the better part of a year.
Wow.
So they had to learn how.
I guess I would never have expected that.
And I thought it was wild that they did 6 to 8 weeks in boot camp just to do 10 weeks of a shoot.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like it took almost as much time
to get prepared
as the
for
shoot
it.
did, just to get acclimated to the temperature and everything else.
Conditioned and everything.
Very important. So underrated for those of us like me that sit in the air conditioner in our offices or our homes most of the time.
Yeah.
Getting acclimated to temperatures that hot is a process.
Right.
Just so you can survive it.
That's really actually very impressive.
Yeah.
They
were all very dedicated.
That's pretty intense. I wonder if they had to like agree to I mean, obviously they had to agree to do that.
Yeah, they knew what they were signing up for.
You kind of have
you
to
read the book and you
understand
know
the assignment.
what you're looking at. Half the theme of the book and the descriptions are just of how goddamn hot everything is all the time.
I never really thought much about how it was filmed, which is different for me now.
That is surprising.
I watch everything and I wonder how it was filmed, or I feel like I know already.
It's really, one of the main things I think about, no matter what I'm watching.
Yeah, now especially. But I guess because this one's just such a throwback to my childhood, I just like took it.
You took it for what it was. They were just in the desert.
Yeah.
You didn't know where. You didn't care.
Didn't know where, didn't care.
The heat did take its toll, though. Andrew Davis said it was quite intense. It was very, very hot inside of those holes, and we had to have the kids sprayed down and hydrated to make sure that they were going to be safe.
Constantly.
One day it hit 119 degrees, and they almost canceled the shoot, but the cast agreed to knock it out. The actor playing Magnet, Miguel Castro, said, I was hallucinating, and I started seeing water, a swimming pool.
He literally saw a mirage in the desert?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
A mirage of a swimming pool.
That's so cool. It's such a cartoon thing.
He said the production team gave us thermometers to check the temperature of our holes, and if the holes hit over 125 degrees, we had to get out of there. He said that day some of our thermometers broke 130.
They had thermometers in their holes.
Had to check their temperatures. I knew that there would be a lot of euphemisms with a movie like Holes. I didn't know all of the forms and various and sundry ways we would find them. But
how do you find the hole? I mean, sometimes it's just,
Sometimes it's instinct.
Sometimes the hole finds you.
And sometimes the hole finds you.
But It's so funny hearing about this because I'm like, it's a comedy. It's honestly a genuinely very funny movie. Mm-hmm. They all keep in good spirits, it seems like. I mean, if the cast is not having a good time, that's going to come through in the film itself. This is just making me think of like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Like part of that franchise's lore is how hot the filming was for the first film, and it like made them all like crazy and like delusional and like added to the chaos of the filming process, and like
they just had that like buzz and energy to it.
That heat exhaustion element that came through in the cast so convincingly, and added to the delirium of the whole thing. And I mean, it's just kind of funny looking at like that next to Holes and how this had to be so much worse, and it still like worked.
Yeah, they handled it.
Somehow,
they really handled it.
It's honestly impressive.
I think there were a lot of things at play that made it work like that, and we'll get to it when we talk about the cast. But part of it, I think, is the way that the kids felt knowing the magnitude of the adult cast.
Yeah.
And how they felt they really needed to live up to it. So they were all kind of working to outperform, themselves all the time.
Yeah.
And to put up with some really difficult conditions at the same time.
Yeah, I guess if you don't know how like god awful that is, you just do it anyway. You're like, no, I can handle it. I'm cool. I'm sure
kids.
It was also a lot of like yes-anding themselves into like being better. Like you're saying, like not
and
just being
so
good
many
enough
of them too.
Yeah, not just like being good enough to compete with the adults, but
think
like
we're gonna stay in these holes no matter what.
Yeah, like if you can do it, I can do it too. Like, oh, well, I gotta look cool. I gotta look like tough. I'm sure there was some of that in the cast.
Masculinity is a huge theme throughout this. It's a huge theme throughout Shia's life. We'll talk about that too. And I think
for sure
that probably played in all these dudes coming of age.
All it took was one of them saying, "I'll do it. I don't care what they do. I'll do it." And then they all agree.
Yeah, probably so.
Damn.
To show the 7 kids' holes being dug gradually throughout the day, different phases of holes were used. So that confused me too as I watched it as a kid. I was like, how did they keep track of whose hole is supposed to look like what? And
for real.
like that seems like a continuity nightmare to me. But they did things in phases, I think,
right,
which had to have helped at least a little bit.
Who dug the actual holes? How'd they actually create them? Do you know?
Nothing said.
That's so odd.
You've stumped me.
That's my first question in an interview. Who dug the holes?
I'm sure that it was very much a process with a machine, you know, like I don't think that they had anybody out there actually digging for these purposes, because they needed to look somewhat uniform, and I'm sure that they had machines do it.
Something that dug in like a circle like that?
Something.
Because like I know how they like dig graves now.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, it used to be obviously a grave digger, but now they use just a big like tractor thing that scoops out the earth.
Is it a backhoe?
Is it a backhoe? I don't know. I don't know shit
Testing my
about
farming knowledge. Hey Thomas, is it a backhoe?
I don't know shit about. But like, you know, obviously that's different because that's a rectangle.
These are perfectly circular.
Very perfect circles. I honestly, in real life, those holes would not.
I
be
would
that
imagine
circular.
as well. Nothing said this, but guessing, like as they do the wide shots and the big, you know, pull-aways of everything, it's all
sure.
CG. So they didn't have to dig as many as it seems like they did. So it, you know, I'm sure
just their filming locations, and I'm sure they repurposed the same holes over and over.
Right.
But that CG holds up a lot better than the yellow spotted lizards.
Cool. How y'all doing?
Close-ups.
How y'all doing out there? Are you fed up with this yet? Are you sick of this?
No, but seriously,
we're just getting started.
The lizard CG does not look.
Oh no, it looks very bad. The CG lizards are rough. 14 bearded dragons were used, with 4 main lizards and the rest as background atmosphere lizards. Which, that's my job title. Background atmosphere lizard.
Especially in this heat. Who's keeping their AC on 78? Not me.
And another little production fun fact, we'll get to plenty more of them, but according to the DVD commentary, the sploosh that Stanley and Hector drink is actually applesauce mixed with molasses.
I bet that actually tasted pretty good.
The more you know.
You can't really see it anyway.
Yeah. Could have been anything.
You know what else I noticed?
What else did you notice, Christian?
There's so much slow motion in this movie.
There is a lot of slow-mo. There's a lot of slow-mo. As a kid, I liked it a lot, but I did notice it watching it.
It's so bad. It wasn't shot in the right frame rate.
There are also a lot of like day for night filters that are pretty rough.
Yeah, that's true too.
I just know that in some of those moments where they're out on the lake, it's just a total day for night filter. And I 100% understand why they would do that, because
you gotta be able to see everything.
You have to be able to see everything, and it's impossible to light a lake like that. Maybe not today.
Oh no.
Even still probably today.
That would
still
be so hard
to light a location like that's supposed to be just a lake in the just pitch darkness. They had to.
It's so difficult that they probably wouldn't have even shot on the actual lake.
Right. And they needed those shots. I mean, those shots kind of make the movie. The complexity of the shot and the depth of what's happening, the magnitude of what's happening. I'm
not mad at it.
No.
I'm glad it existed that way.
For sure.
The movie, we'll just say it was pretty good.
Oh yeah. I don't want to give anybody the impression that I'm not fully impressed with what they were able to do.
Movie was pretty good.
The editing process, as always, was grueling, but not dramatic. Sacker said that Andy would send him tapes as it was getting cut down. He said the initial tape was 4 hours long, and then it gradually, every few months, he'd get another tape and see it tightened.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I would really like to see the 4-hour cut of Holes.
Yeah.
Would love to. Unfortunately, that's not as readily available as Richard Kelly's script.
4-hour cut. Do they have the original script for the official movie?
Not that I've seen.
I want to know how you get 4 hours.
I know.
Unless the script is like
4-hour cut.
300 pages long?
Maybe he was exaggerating, but that is a direct quote from Louis Sacker.
Jesus.
Andrew Davis said, "We didn't have a lot of screenings where Disney executives told us to change things. We finished it and that was it."
Yeah, all right.
And again, that's not common. Not only were they not involved on set, but they really didn't, have a whole lot of opinions when it came to the edit.
Yeah, thought that kind of honor was just reserved for DJ McHale. With Disney.
It's pretty impressive anytime somebody can achieve something like that where Disney doesn't come back with 15 million notes.
Right.
But maybe Disney just knew that no matter what, because of the strength of the novel, that they had a hit. And speaking of hits, we've got to talk about the music.
Dig it.
We'll start with the score, which was composed by Joel McNeely. Joel was a protege of legendary film composer Jerry Goldsmith, who did Planet of the Apes, Alien, Poltergeist, The Secret of NIMH, Gremlins, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Mulan, and The Mummy, among many others.
Oh, wait, the 1999 Mummy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we will have plenty of opportunity to talk about Jerry Goldsmith, but I really liked knowing that Joel had learned from one of the pretty dark greats.
That's awesome.
Joel has some fun credits of his own, including the 1998 Avengers, Terminal Velocity, Iron Will, which this music soundtrack was somehow used in the teaser trailer to Toy Story, the theatrical trailer to Balto, the direct-to-video trailer for Balto 3 Wings of Change, and the VHS trailer for Mulan. So they really liked this instrumental.
Yeah, wow.
Disney did.
All right.
He also did Flipper, Gold Diggers, The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, and a ton of other Disney projects like Mulan 2, Fox and the Hound 2, Lilo and Stitch, Return to Neverland, The Jungle Book 2, Tinkerbell, and many more.
All right.
Joel McNeely is also a frequent collaborator with Seth MacFarlane and currently scores occasional episodes of American Dad.
That's nuts.
It's one of his buddies.
Jeez.
But that's just the score. As with so many of the movies that we talk about, this film's soundtrack is burned into my mind.
Yeah, dude.
We've got the Grammy-winning single Just Like You by Keb Mo. The soundtrack also includes contributions by the Eels, Devin Thompson, Dr. John, Eagle Eye Cherry, Fiction Plane, Little Axe, the North Mississippi All-Stars, which their track, Shake 'Em On Down, actually mentions our hometown, by the way.
What? It says
I don't
Mobile?
think that part of it says Mobile, but I don't think that part of it is in the movie, but it does say it in the song, which I thought is fun.
There are multiple Mobiles. Is it Alabama?
I'm pretty positive.
Wow. All right.
Pepe Deluxe, Shaggy, Stephanie Bentley, and Teresa James and the Rhythm Tramps. So this soundtrack is all kinds of early 2000s Americana. It still has that very 90s like rhythm vibe to it as well.
It does have a lot of very 90s feel, but I enjoy it. It was good.
I think it's great.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they don't even have the whole soundtrack available on Spotify, so
Nope.
I'm looking at y'all to rectify that. But in the meantime, there are a couple playlists that will definitely get you there if you're looking to go there. The one that I'm sure Christian and all of you Darklings are waiting for, though, is the Dr. Dre and Mike Elizondo produced Dig It by the D-Tent Boys, which were the actors portraying the D-Tent group inmates, which included a video that was played so frequently on the Disney Channel around this time.
I'm sure I've seen it. I don't remember. I don't recall.
And we're also in luck because I found a GQ article detailing the background of the song itself. Andrew Davis liked the idea of a prisoner's song. As he was developing the film, Davis had been listening to a lot of Southern Americana music, getting into the spirit of a juvenile correctional boot camp in the Texas desert. And of course, this is one of mine and your favorite genres.
Yeah, absolutely.
As the filmmaking team envisioned the story's dried-out location and the daily hole-digging punishments, Davis couldn't help but think about instituting a collective melody for his beaten-down characters. He said, "What if we have something that brought in elements of hip-hop along with the more grounded elements of a chain gang?" Perhaps surprisingly, that track turned into a straight-up jam and is arguably the most memorable and enduring part of the movie.
Straight up jam.
Straight up
It's the most
jam.
white person way you
I know.
could have said that.
It was quoted from the article. I had to do it.
The idea for Dig It, as the song was eventually titled, crystallized a few weeks into production on the back of a bus. Led by Shia LaBeouf, the musically inclined teenage cast had begun freestyle rapping and singing about their orange jumpsuits, calloused hands, and the blistering sun on their way to set. It didn't take long for the producers to hear their creativity and realize they should capitalize. Music supervisor Karen Rachtman put together a production team of Mickey Petralia and Michael Fitzpatrick to build out a track, reserve a Hollywood studio, and turn the D-Tent Boys of Camp Green Lake into a legit hip-hop outfit. There was really no idea of what it was going to be, says Max Cash, who played Zigzag. It came out of nowhere.
I love the image of that, just the idea that Shia and all the guys, 14-year-old Shia, 15-year-old Shia, he was 15.
We all did that when we were that age.
Oh my gosh, that was like our favorite hobby, not necessarily rapping because you've seen me, but like the whole like creative element of just coming up with stuff on the spot. Like we would play all the kinds of improv games and stuff, especially on a bus.
Yeah.
That's where that magic happens, you know?
Just lived in perpetual dread of like the field trip bus rides where like people would
Sing-alongs?
start that kind of go around thing where everybody was expected to say something.
It would be like, oh, what's the
headphones?
Shibuya, yeah, Shibuya roll call.
Oh, dude, that gives that.
You're having a visceral reaction. I can see it.
Anxiety sweats.
I loved that. I lived for that shit. I love a good like collaborative bus ride song. I don't know. It's fun to me.
This is where we are incredibly different.
I'm a summer camp kid.
You are. I would have known.
Through and through.
No, I would have.
I hated certain elements of it. I was miserable with the heat and the bugs and the, 40 girls to a bunk room and like no hot showers. Like that part, I really almost couldn't hack it. But
See, those are the parts I'd be fine with.
Yeah, the other parts, like, are what made it for me.
Yeah, I would have hated everything else.
Singing.
The only part of what you enjoy that I would have liked
campfires
would have been the campfire ghost stories.
And
that's
campfire ghost stories, which I didn't get very many ghost stories as they were church camps that I was attending, but even still.
Oh, see, you didn't get a real camp experience.
I do kind of wish that I could go back to like a true blue, Camp Waziata. Like I've been obsessed with bug juice since I was a kid, wishing that I could go to a camp like that.
Camp Chippewa.
Yeah, Camp Chippewa.
It's the Addams Family.
Camp Walden from The Parent Trap.
Camp Anawana. I rewatched Zeke the Plumber just the other day.
Just to get back in the summer
just
camp
to get
feelings.
back into
We've definitely
the
had these summer camp conversations before, but it doesn't make me love them any less.
I like the idea of them. I like them in fiction.
Yeah.
I
do, yeah. I probably do like them more in fiction than in reality, if we're being honest.
Camp Green Lake, Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, those two. Before we leave the subject of music, I thought it was fun to mention that, of course, the words to the If Only Lullaby were written by Louis Sachar himself in the novel, but the music for this lullaby was written by Andrew Davis. So the director put music to If only the woodpecker sighs, the bark on the tree was as soft as the skies.
I guess that makes sense because it's like part of the plot. It's part of the story. That has been just burned into the wooden corners of my brain.
Mm-hmm, me too.
That song,
I would think about
melody all the time.
Same.
And I would there were times in my life when I was older and I was like, what was that even from? What is this song that lives in my
enduring.
head?
It's up in there.
Yeah.
It's never going to leave. Of course, to round out our part 1 discourse, we have to talk about the cast.
Yeah, dude. These guys.
For the monumental casting task, and I mean, there are a ton of characters. I have so many pages of just casting notes.
Oh.
Davis turned to the legendary Hollywood casting directors Kathy Sandrich Gelfand. She's still working, and she's cast projects like Hocus Pocus 2, Krampus, The Vow, The Last Song with Miley, another Disney Channel alum, The Proposal, 27 Dresses, August Rush, The Fog, Snow Dogs, Inspector Gadget, Practical Magic, and also the 1997 George of the Jungle.
That's awesome. That's
cool.
And
that's just a short list. He also enlisted Amanda Mackey, who shares many of these same credits, but also things like A League of Their Own.
Okay, nice.
You all already know how I feel about the magic of casting, and I think that they hit the nail on the head in every way with this film.
I was so excited to see these characters come to life.
Me too.
Like, I already thought that these characters were so cool. They were like weird little role models for me when I was a little kid.
I mean, you and I'm sure a lot of our Darkling friends.
I wanted to be just like all of them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know them and be friends with them.
Me too.
So when this movie was coming out, like I was on the edge of my seat, like I was seeing Harry Potter or something.
Yeah.
Like I was there.
You were there to meet the characters that you already knew.
Yeah. I wanted to meet them in real life.
I think there are elements of this that make casting a book adaptation easier and harder.
Right.
Because you're looking to, you have all of this material to go on. So you know the character a lot better than you might just reading like a treatment of a script. But you also have all of these people's expectations that you're trying to meet and manage at the same time.
I feel like the only things that compare were like, yes, the first Harry Potter, but also like Twilight.
Twilight, yeah.
Like I felt the same energy when I was going to see the first movie.
Me too.
When it came
Twilight
out.
was a big deal for me in that regard as well.
This is going to be so sick, dude. Like, these are freaking vampires, bro.
The book meant so much to me.
It was just, I missed that excitement and that enthusiasm for seeing.
Me too.
Like, really great literature turned into, a fantastic movie. It's just so rare these days.
It is. Or just something that means a lot to you, something that is already so ingrained in your heart and soul to then see it on screen. It's a rare feeling when you get to our age.
It's special.
I have hope I'll feel it again.
Real life magic.
As you might have guessed, some of the more established actors like Voight, Weaver, and Nelson were offered parts without auditioning. And we'll get to them. But they did spend quite a lot of time and effort looking for the kids, beginning with 15-year-old Shia LaBeouf as 14-year-old Stanley Caveman Yelnats IV.
Yeah, buddy.
Which is technically the role that introduced him as a film actor.
Yeah, literally the credits say
introducing Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Although, listener, if you haven't seen True Confessions, I don't know how many times I've soapboxed that movie, but it is a phenomenal movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's a Disney Channel original movie, and it is so underrated. So underrated.
So it was like a TV movie, though. This is his first theatrical theater release.
Yes,
film.
This is his first theatrical film.
Nice.
And I'm not sure if this is going to sell you on True Confessions or make you more afraid of it, but the guy who wrote Land Before Time also wrote True Confessions.
That makes me think it's going to be awesome. Now I want to watch it.
But before we even get on the Shia LaBeouf path, we obviously have to acknowledge the accusations of assault and violence that have been leveraged against him by some of his former partners. Of all of the crumbling castles and Me Too's over the years, this one has been particularly hard for me to grapple with. I think because I was at least somewhat parasocially in love with him for a period of time, circa Disturbia.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well,
and
we all were.
I had long considered him one of my favorite actors before that. Even during the early days of the pandemic, I spent time obsessed with his film, the one that he wrote and starred in called Honey Boy, and the resonance that it held for him as an artist. His mind, his talent, and the way that he approaches art was all so inspiring to me once upon a time, and I hate that it's a little bit tarnished now.
Yeah.
I just held him in such high regard, and there's a lot further to fall when you feel like that about somebody.
Yeah, I'm feeling that way about Neil Gaiman right now.
I wanted to ask you about it, and I didn't want to be the one to tell you.
I don't want to talk about it.
I didn't figure. Obviously, I do not condone Shia's actions or his violence, and I cannot excuse them in any way. And of course, I believe the victims who have come out, with these allegations.
Yeah, we have to until proven otherwise, right?
But I do think that most of you Darklings will understand how it hurts me, on a personal level, to see him fall so far.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know much about Shia, he was raised in a fairly chaotic way by hippie parents, he calls them. His father was a professional clown, literally, and he grew up accompanying his father to AA meetings at various points in his life.
Oh, wow.
Prior to acting, Shia practiced comedy around his neighborhood as an escape from the hostile environment that he was growing up in. At age 10, he began performing stand-up at the Improv, describing his appeal as having disgustingly dirty material and a 50-year-old mouth on a 10-year-old kid. He subsequently found an agent through the Yellow Pages, and he was taken on after pretending to be his own manager.
That's really awesome. That's so great.
Shia LaBeouf has said that he initially became an actor because his family was broke, not because he wanted to pursue acting as a career.
Yeah.
And he originally got the idea from a child actor that he met who had things that he wanted. So it was all just about becoming more than he was and making money, even when he was very, very young.
Honey Boy would have you believe that his dad forced him into it.
And there's an element of that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it sounds like the choice was his.
He felt the pressure of finances from a young age, and I'm sure that wasn't entirely something that those weren't conclusions he arrived to on his own.
That's true. Yeah.
He was a kid.
Because he had that talent anyway. He had that gift, and I'm sure his dad did. And
it was very much like you can't waste this gift.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, man. Yeah, children should never be responsible for the struggles of the parent.
And I think that this pursuit of and distaste for fame has defined a lot of Shia's life and his performance art, too.
Sure.
His mother was Jewish and his father was Catholic and a war veteran. And I feel like this was just a very wild soup for him to grow up dealing with.
Sure.
And addiction was on the horizon for him from a very, very early age.
Yeah. Child stars, man.
I have to think some of these themes were emerging for him even during Holes, because this is when his career was really just beginning to take off. He'd been on Even Stevens. He was working simultaneously actually on Even Stevens while he was working on Holes.
Oh, really?
Because they filmed it during 2002.
Okay. Wow.
And there's just so much to this guy, honestly, like in my own personal lore. And like he has a lot surrounding him.
Yeah.
And if you're a Darkling who only remembers Lewis Stevens and you want to know more about Shia, despite these severe shortcomings that we've discussed, I do think that Honey Boy is a good place to start because it kind of gives you a picture of what his life was like growing up. It's not an easy line to walk for us because we're lauding him as an actor on a film like this, but we will always try to be honest when it comes to the darkness in the lives of those that we have respected.
That's the thing. He's an incredible actor. You can't say he isn't.
You can't.
It's just when it comes to like wanting to celebrate the person behind the performances,
right?
That's when it gets really, really difficult in these circumstances.
But from just the perspective of acting and like
just as a performer,
the craft and the skill of acting.
Yeah,
he's one of the greatest of our generation by far.
Sure. And I think there are extreme cases, obviously, in all of these different examples. Like anybody who lives this kind of lifestyle, there's so many broken pieces inside of so many of these people, and everything looks so glamorous and so beautiful and perfect, and your life looks so awesome, and you're worshipped by millions of people. And that's just not reality.
No.
Like, these are still human beings, individuals who have lives, they have, the pasts, and they have all
vices.
Vices even. I mean, they have, nobody has their shit together, especially people who live
in the public eye.
In the public eye. Because then you have nowhere to like escape and process. And
and I think that's part of why...
Especially child actors.
Shia talks about a lot of this stuff. There's actually a podcast that he did with the director of Honey Boy.
Yeah,
where they
told me
kind of
about
get
that.
into some of those topics, masculinity, acting as a career.
It's like mental health, right? It's like...
Mental health.
None of this is your fault necessarily.
But it's your
especially if you were a
responsibility.
child actor, right? But it is your responsibility to not perpetuate these traumas and not continue the bullshit.
Yeah, and that's what we all have to...
We all have to do. That's all of our burden.
Yeah. That's our work, is to not pass our traumas forward.
Right.
Just ask the warden how that feels.
Yeah. It's one of the hardest things to do, and that's why it almost never happens. So maybe we can all learn something from this movie. Let's remember the possibilities of breaking those family curses.
Yeah. Let's take it with us. The role of Stanley was originally offered to Frankie Muniz, who backed out due to his commitment on Agent Cody Banks, which was coming out right around the same time. They were back to square one, looking for a lead actor, and Davis asked for an actor like a young Tom Hanks.
All right.
Producer Marty Ewing said, Andy showed me some of Shia's audition tapes, and we were both mesmerized by this young kid. We thought he was like a young Dustin Hoffman type, and it was a no-brainer to cast him in the movie. I hesitate to include this, Darklings, but I thought it was a true picture of what Shia was like at the time, more than likely. Because when he was asked in an interview, as they were behind the scenes of Holes, what kind of treasure that he would be hoping for when digging holes, Shia said, a picture of Christina Aguilera in a really nice two-piece.
I mean, that's what I wanted.
I mean,
when
he
I
was 15,
his age too.
He's nothing if not 15.
I used to look at her, album covers.
Yeah. Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Of course, we must discuss Sigourney Weaver as the warden / Louise Walker. I don't want to say that she gets typecast so much as she's just really good at playing badass women in sci-fi adventure movies.
For real, though. She's brings it.
Ellen Ripley in the Alien series. Dana Barrett in Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Dr. Grace Augustine in the Avatar movies. Diane Fossey in Gorillas in the Mist, and even the director in Cabin in the Woods.
She just has this...
She has it.
Presence, this power behind her.
Yes.
That she can bring to literally every performance.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's very, very impressive.
She's phenomenal.
I love her. We also can't forget her roles in WALL-E as the ship's computer, and also one of my favorite horror films of all time, The Village.
Yes.
And there are many more that I could mention, but she is herself a pop culture icon.
Yes, she is.
I love the career that she's created because it's so unique in the Hollywood landscape. And despite the warden being rather cutthroat, ruthless, and morally gray, she beautifully portrayed her character's lifelong pursuit of a stolen treasure. And also kicked ass with her venomous nail polish.
Yeah, buddy.
And for that, we are all thankful.
Man, these are the adults that you love to hate.
As much as I was afraid of her, I thought she was the coolest person I'd ever seen, next to Kissing Kate Barlow.
Oh, Second only to Kissing Kate.
Next is Jon Voight as Mr. Sir / Marion Sevilla. This man has done so much. He's been acting since he started in TV in the mid-'60s. In the life of Kaylin, though, nothing is so important as the film that he followed this one up with, which was National Treasure.
Yeah.
Some of his other notable roles include Midnight Cowboy, Deliverance, Coming Home, for which he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, and Mission Impossible. He also joined Shia again, appearing in Transformers.
Oh, right.
More recently, and something many of our friends would care about, he played football coach Paul William Bear Bryant in the sports drama Woodlawn. And of course, he was the newspaper owner, Henry Shaw Sr., in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Oh, I forgot he was in that.
Yeah.
He's also in one of my childhood favorite movies, Anaconda.
I should have listed it.
It's unreal.
Something that I found very interesting about Jon Voight is actually not necessarily about John at all, but rather the family that he comes from. He has 2 siblings, a volcanologist, Barry Voight, and a singer-songwriter, James Wesley Voight, pseudonym Chip Taylor. Barry is most famous for first predicting and then investigating the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980.
Huh.
And James is most famous for writing the hit songs Wild Thing and Angel of the Morning.
What?
Yeah. It is so fascinating to me how some gene pools are just determined to make their mark on the world in one way or another.
That's cool.
Next up, we have Tim Blake Nelson playing Dr. Mom Pendanski.
Yeah.
And he's had quite a few recognizable roles. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The Incredible Hulk, Leaves of Grass, Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed,
No way.
The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and more.
Yeah. Did you ever watch The Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
I think I started it, and I don't think I ever went back and finished it. Much like Killers of the Flower Moon, which I really feel bad and guilty about.
I loved that movie.
I thought it was great. I just never went back and I thought what I watched was great. I watched about 3/4 of it and then fell off the wagon.
Memory of Buster Scruggs was so much better than I remember. While watching it, I felt very confused. But I love the Coen brothers, and now, man, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is just top notch shit, guys. That's where I know him from specifically.
Tim Blake Nelson was offered the part by Andy Davis, but he hadn't read the novel yet at the time. He said, "I didn't quite get the character as scripted, and my initial inclination was to say no. But it was clear Andy was treating this as though he was making an adult film, and its aesthetic wasn't going to be driven by any dumbing down of the material."
Yeah, right.
The adult cast was a pointer to me that it wasn't going to be just a kid's movie. And I can't imagine the depth of regret I would have felt if I'd gone to the movies with my children and missed out on getting to play this role.
Dude, seriously, you're offered a role in a movie with Sigourney Weaver and Jon Voight.
And you say no?
And you go, I don't know if I relate to the material. No, you say yes, whatever it is.
Every time.
Doesn't matter what it is, you do it.
In what world could you say no? So I'm definitely glad for him and us.
Yeah, honestly.
That he was our mom.
Hey, good call.
At Camp Green Lake.
Good call, fella.
One of our other favorites, Eartha Kitt, plays Madame Zeroni.
Yes.
Of course, we know her very well as the voice of Yzma from Emperor's New Groove.
Mm-hmm.
But Eartha Kitt's life is fascinating and incredible.
Yeah?
As IMDb says, she was an out-of-wedlock child born in the cotton fields of South Carolina. Kitt's mother was a sharecropper of African American and Cherokee Native American descent. Her father's identity is still unknown. Given away by her mother, she arrived in Harlem at age 9. At 15, she quit high school to work in a Brooklyn factory. But as a teenager, Kitt lived in friends' homes and in the subways. By the 1950s, she had sung and danced her way out of poverty and into the spotlight, performing with the Katherine Dunham Dance Troupe on a European tour, soloing at a Paris nightclub, and becoming the toast of the continent.
That's incredible.
Orson Welles called her the most exciting girl in the world.
That's awesome.
She also spoke out on difficult issues, and she took over the role of Catwoman for the third and final season of the television series Batman in 1966.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know most of this, but
one of her favorite roles,
incredible.
I think. But her life, just I cannot fathom.
Yeah, that's so many things.
She had it, like the thing that we're talking about. Just she had it. She had that drive. She had the spark, and she had the talent. And look where it got her.
That's really great.
And she was always kind of a institution in my mind as Madame Zeroni. Madame Zeroni was the
you come back to carry Madame Zeroni
up the mountain.
So I can get strong too.
I don't know. Something about that just stuck with me. Her role and the way that she was cursing and putting hexes on people who weren't good on their word. I was like, yeah, get 'em.
It did seem some weird like culture blending.
There was some appropriation for sure.
Of like, what is this person doing in Latvia?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It's a kid's story.
Yeah.
It's for children.
This is where we draw the line and say, oh, it's a kid's story.
It's for kids.
I think that there's definitely some appropriation, but there's a caricature to this idea that they did want the child audience to grasp, which was there's a little bit of like hoodoo voodoo to the whole thing.
It's very Shirley the Medium.
It is very Shirley the Medium.
I mean, she was a fortune teller, so they kind of sound the same.
Opens her mouth and a dial tone comes out.
Yeah, honestly, they kind of talk the exact same, to be honest.
They do. It's a stereotype.
Yeah.
It is absolutely a stereotype, but it was one that I held near and dear.
That's not her accent, then. She's
not the stereotype, but the type of character.
she's putting on a like a character, like a voice.
Yeah,
that's
for
not
sure.
her. Okay,
no, not at all.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Next up, we have Patricia Arquette as the Kissin' Kate Barlow.
Damn, dude.
Patricia Arquette is one of the film's most decorated actors and probably my most favorite character.
I saw her in Disney World.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, we were standing
wild.
outside of Everest. We just looked over, and there's Kissin' Kate Barlow with her 2 kids just hanging out in Disney World. And we debated for a few minutes of like, do we go say something? Like, I want to.
It's so
meet
hard because it's like
her.
you have that experience one time, and then she lives this life
It's like
every day.
this is the only opportunity I'm ever going to have.
That is truly one of the worst places where I find myself when I've been around.
Yeah.
In the presence of a celebrity of any kind, it's like
Right.
I want to have this experience, but I don't want to make you have this experience.
Yeah, I'd never really been around any celebrities at that point in my life. I've worked with a few now, but I'm really glad I left her alone. Like, I'm really glad we didn't go say hey. And
that would have been a tough thing. But honestly,
she was just hanging out with her kids.
To recognize her for something like Holes might have been like fun or novel for her.
And it makes me think, because I was like, oh, this is a Disney movie. I'm like, what was she just doing at Disney World? Maybe she was just there.
Went to Disney with her kids. I mean,
guess so, but it was funny.
They're people too. They're people just like us.
They are people.
Just some of her many credits include Nightmare on Elm Street 3, True Romance, the series Medium, which was huge for a really long time. And I remember that in my
I think
high school
that was
mind.
Still on the air when I saw her.
It was on air for quite a while.
Yeah.
She's also in Boyhood, which is a Richard Linklater film, and know how I love Richard Linklater.
I haven't
just
seen Boyhood
simply
yet.
So much. She also gave a harrowing portrayal of Dee Dee Blanchard in The Act, which was the Hulu portrayal of
Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Rose and that whole saga.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And she is also in one of my current favorite shows, still airing and taping today, Severance.
Oh, okay, nice.
I feel like as an actress, for as much as she's done, she's still so underrated.
Yeah, very little known.
She's just kind of flown under the radar.
Strangely, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes no sense to me because to me, she's iconic. She's Kate Barlow.
I know, that's what I said. I didn't even know her name. I was like, that's Kissin' Kate Barlow.
I'm sure this is a very, very specific to our age group.
I'm sure.
We can't talk about Kissin' Kate Barlow without discussing.
I can fix that.
Sam, played by Dule Hill.
He's great.
And excuse me while I swoon all over the place.
Oh, I can fix that.
Sam taught me what love is. And I cannot wait to get into all of the light and darkness surrounding his character in part 2.
Love is an action.
Love is an action. And he acts it.
He acts the hell out of Love and Kissin' Kate.
He does. Dule is an accomplished actor and tap dancer, gaining early recognition on television in The West Wing, for which he earned an Emmy nom. Most will probably know him as Burton Gus Guster on Psych.
Yeah, that's how I know him. Besides
But he also appeared on Ghost Rider, Smart Guy, Ballers, Suits, and the Wonder Years reboot that came out recently.
Yes.
And I thought he was phenomenal in that too. He played the dad, and I thought he did such a good job.
I haven't seen
Oh
that
my
yet.
God.
I was excited
so
for
good.
him to be in it, but I haven't seen that yet.
It's great. Also, She's All That.
Oh, he was in that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Of his role as Sam, he said, when you have all of these people like John Voight, Sigourney Weaver, Eartha Kitt, Patricia Arquette, Tim Blake Nelson, and Henry Winkler in the cast, it's like, come on, let's do this thing. Once I knew who was in the cast, I was that much more honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, for real.
And this was from an interview last year. And he said, people still come up to me today saying how they're such big fans of the movie. They always quote my character saying, I can fix that.
I can fix
it really
that.
just amazes me. Romance is nothing without Annabelle Lee and Sam and Kate. Just nothing. If I didn't have that scene in my life, I wouldn't be the same person.
It's a good scene. I mean, it feels oddly out of place in Holes because
no, it was necessary. It doesn't for me.
Edgar Allan Poe, for anybody who's not aware.
Edgar Allan Poe, yes.
It's sure, it works because you know it to be part of the movie and the scene. But like, looking back, I'm like, such a morbid, macabre thing.
It is so morbid. It is so dark. And
but it
also
is so
beautiful.
Works because of sort of the point being made with their relationship.
Right. Exactly. And that it was necessary
this
for that.
Impossible love.
You had to see this love for what it was before you would appreciate what it couldn't be at that point in time.
Inside of their little bubble, it is one of the most just
innocent, pure, like
beautiful things.
It is truly just, he just loves her. He loves her.
They themselves are in a kingdom by the sea.
They are in a kingdom
together
by the sea.
In and of themselves. But it is impossible for that to last because of the surrounding external circumstances.
Yes.
Within this context, it is illegal, as they very clearly point out.
We're going to get to all of that, and there is so much to be said, so don't worry. We'll try to say it all. Hey. You're making a face.
Yes, Fonz. The
Fonz. There you go. A very fun surprise for my dad as we were watching Holes together that spring day in the theater. Henry Winkler plays Stanley's father, Stanley Yelnats III.
I love a Winky Winkler.
Best known for his iconic role as Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli on the hit TV series Happy Days. He also expanded to directing and producing, including projects like MacGyver. He also held roles in Arrested Development and recently Barry, which won him his first Primetime Emmy Award.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
That's shocking.
I know. Whole career.
His character in Barry would be so proud of him. Or actually, he'd be so jealous. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't watched it. It is worth everybody tells me to.
The watch. It's going to depress the out of you.
Okay,
but
I'll
get prepared. It's a dark comedy. It's great. It's fantastic.
Kind of like Baby Reindeer.
I haven't seen that.
I watched Baby Reindeer and I was like, oh, ouch. Yowza.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Go hurt your own feelings and watch Barry. Okay. It's great.
Will do.
Henry Winkler will drive you insane. He's so infuriating.
Oh, no. Next up, we've got Cleo Thomas as Hector Zero Zeroni.
Yeah.
He's had a couple dozen roles since Zero, but on his YouTube channel, he still regularly credits this film with his success and pays homage.
Yeah, sure.
To Business Insider for the anniversary last year, he said several quotes, which I'm going to smush together.
Sploosh it.
The first time I heard about the film was at a casting call. Disney was looking for young actors who had the edge of a Bow Wow type or a Lil Romeo.
Yeah.
I had a lot of competition at the callbacks, and I only got a chance to do one thing: sit next to Shia and go through the scene of Stanley teaching Zero how to read. They told us to scrap the script and improv to see what we would come up with. Shia and I just had chemistry. We immediately connected, and the rest is history.
All right.
Andrew Davis shared that Cleo's Zero was just perfect. He was this delicate kid who could be vulnerable and picked on, so it worked out really well.
Mm-hmm.
But Cleo also recognized the maturity and depth in playing a character affected by homelessness and poverty, and the ways that Zero had to adapt to life.
Yeah.
He said, Zero is not the most Disney-friendly character. Like, he was grabbing 8 balls ready to fight. He hit a guy with a shovel, and he choked somebody else out.
Yeah.
I kept thinking how this character I'm playing might be the biggest gangster in Disney history.
That's so funny. He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all.
Zero is tough and scrappy, and I saw a lot of myself in Zero because he's this small kid that everybody underestimates, and nobody should have been underestimating him to begin with.
Yeah.
Like most of the D-Tent kids, Cleo recognized the incredible opportunity that he was in and kind of the good old days while he was still there. He said one day Sigourney Weaver came around the corner in full wardrobe as the warden, and I didn't see Sigourney, I saw Ripley from Alien. My brain exploded and I froze instantly.
That's great.
And that's how I would be if I were on that set as a child.
For real, though.
Moving on to the next D-Tent kid, we have Brendan Jefferson starring as Rex X-Ray Washburn. Disney Channel aficionados will also recognize him from his minor roles in Even Stevens, Xenon, The Proud Family, and alongside Andrew Lawrence in The Other Me, which was another Disney Channel original movie.
I watched The Proud Family.
It's a great show.
Yeah, it's a really good show.
From reading his credits, I have to think that his role on Even Stevens might have been what moved him through the first few rounds of casting for Holes.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple of other roles in the 90s and early 2000s in things like Saved by the Bell, The New Class, and,
nice.
Fun for me, as Paul Revere in Michelle Tanner's class play in Full House, which I could immediately see in my head and knew exactly who he was. It doesn't look like he's done a whole lot in the way of acting since 2004, though.
Okay.
Hopefully he is doing well. Here's to you, X-Ray. As I said earlier, Miguel Castro played Magnet, or Jose. Miguel was an extra in the Mary-Kate and Ashley show, So Little Time, which, I appreciate.
Naturally.
And he did a few other things in the early 2000s. But with the recent anniversary, he actually spoke at length to Business Insider, and I really liked his perspective, so I'm going to quote some of his stuff, too.
Cool.
He said, I originally auditioned through my agent, but I didn't book anything. I was horrible. I auditioned again when the production team came to my high school in South LA looking for kids, and I guess they forgot who I was.
Oh, wow.
He said, when I met Louis Sacker, he told me that I was exactly how he wrote Magnet. Skinny, squeaky, and a raspy voice. Very annoying. But he said, I told him, you're messing with Disney, bro. They're going to find exactly what you need.
That's awesome.
He said the experience of being with John Voight, with that big a name, that big a heart, I was freaking out. He said, I was just a kid from South LA being put around all of these important people. When I saw my poster at an AMC theater, my eyes got watery. I was like, why am I the chosen one to do this? From all the Hispanic kids, why does it have to be me?
Yeah, wow.
He said that the theater employee actually saw him and they let him and his date in for free that day.
Dude, what a move. You go to
right?
Going on a date. You're like,
going
what,
on
16?
a date to your movie? Yeah, at like
take
16.
Take him to your movie?
Yeah.
You get in for free?
Amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Props to you, Miguel.
Oh, wow. What a move. I feel like, I don't know if I would do that. I'm not sure I'm that bold. Do I have that kind of bravery?
You would. Yeah, I think you would. If you had a movie in a theater with actors like
it couldn't be my idea.
John Voight, Sigourney Weaver.
It wouldn't be my idea, but
sure, you would subconsciously plant the idea.
Just like leave flyers around for the film, just like, oh, what's that? Oh.
As you're like, she walks in, you're autographing posters. Like,
yeah. Oh,
sorry. I just forgot I had to do this really quick. Is it already time to go?
I check my watch. I'm like, oh, I lost track of time. I just
had some paperwork to take care of.
Yeah, that's my face. That's me.
That's me.
Sorry.
The other D-Tent kids include
D-Tent.
Jake M. Smith as Squid, who went on to do a few small projects. Byron Cotton as Theodore Thomas Armpit Johnson, who began to work as a PA later in the aughts.
Oh, interesting.
Max Cash as Zigzag, who followed Shia to The Greatest Game Ever Played, that golf movie.
Yeah.
He also appeared in Waiting and Whiplash.
Okay, all right.
Noah Politik as Twitch, with a similarly small list of credits, and Zane Holtz as Barfbag. Zane is barely on screen, but he does give us the pretty dark opening scene where he chooses to be bit by a rattlesnake, bitten by a rattlesnake, instead of staying at Camp Green Lake. And he's the only other D-Tent kid who is still acting to this day, as far as I can tell.
Really?
He was in Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief, a short-lived ABC Family series called Make It or Break It, which I remember. It was like about gymnastics. It was like good at the time. The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh.
He was also in a Jodi Arias TV movie.
Oh, shit.
And even a couple episodes of Riverdale.
Okay.
So he's doing okay for himself.
Wow.
I've only got a few more, guys. There's a lot of cast members in this
So many people.
movie. There are just so many people, but I wanted to give everybody their recognition, you know?
Got to.
Next, we have Siobhan Fallon Hogan, who appeared as Tiffany Yelnats, Stanley's mother. I always recognized her when she would pop up, and she did pop up a good bit in the 90s and early 2000s. In Seinfeld, Forrest Gump, Only You, which is one of my absolute favorite Robert Downey Jr. movies.
Okay.
Fools Rush In, rest in peace, Maddie. And more recently, in Wayward Pines. She said of the opportunity, at the time, they said the money wasn't going to be huge. Even the bigger actors were taking less money than they normally would. But Andy knew it was great material, and she trusted that.
Mm-hmm.
Igor Barkov, who is the competition for Elia Yelnats' woman that he's attempting to woo with the pigs, etc., is played by Kevin Devation. And I have to point him out because not only does he play Jesus in season 3, episode 6 of Gilmore Girls,
what?
which I figured you might like be able to see in your mind as I said it. He also played a very recognizable thug in the Mary-Kate and Ashley classic, Our Lips Are Sealed. And I've now made 2 Mary-Kate and Ashley references today, so I am riding high.
You're proud of yourself.
And Louis Sacker himself gets to make a cameo as Mr. Collingwood, they call him, the bald guy to whom Sam is selling his miracle onion cure.
Oh, nice.
He said,
That's
happened
awesome.
to be the day that Andy remembered he promised to put me in the movie. And I guess it wasn't in the script because they were trying to surprise Sacker.
Oh, yeah.
But he was the only bald person on set, so he kind of had to go for it. And he said he was glad that he didn't know about the cameo beforehand. He said he would have practiced his one line in the mirror until the words had no meaning left. It's always fun when a author can make a cameo in their movie.
I kind of thought there were cameos in the final scene of the movie with the pool, because there were like
there are a lot of people there,
adults at the pool.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I
that
assumed
there are
that was like
cameos there.
producers.
It probably was. It's
Whatever,
not mentioned, but I bet that it was. Scott Plank plays Troutwalker. Perhaps the most despicable and easy to hate character in the whole film.
The most easily villainous.
He unfortunately did pass away before the film was completed, though, and it was dedicated to his memory.
How did he die?
I'm not sure.
That's crazy.
The last one I'm going to call out individually is Haley Ann Trickett, who played the young warden.
Okay.
She had 0 credits, but she did all of us millennials a service by giving us the iconic line, and for that we will forever be grateful. Oh man, I took a big breath because I don't really know how to say the next thing I have to say, but I do have one more especially dark and potentially triggering cast factoid.
Okay.
Brian Peck, the Brian Peck of disgusting Quiet on Set infamy.
Yeah, Brian Peck.
He featured as a student in the night class scene because he was the on-set acting coach for the boys.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, that's how he weaseled his way in.
I did not hear of any accusations coming directly from the Holes cast up until now, but I do hope that they were all taken care of and that nothing unfortunate happened when he was on set of
Oh,
Holes.
no. The clouds are covering the sun.
Yeah,
and not
I
in
know.
a good way, like over the desert.
I was really upset when I
you
read
want it to
that.
rain.
Whenever I saw his name on IMDb, I was like, oh, that name sounds familiar. And as I was kind of clicking through, it hit me who that was and why I knew his name.
Oh, God.
And how I wish I didn't and didn't have to.
I hate that so much.
I hate that too. And I'm really sorry, guys, to do that to you.
Oh, my God.
And not only that, but this is kind of the end of our road together today because, as often happens with our lengthier movie night episodes, we've got to spend a lot of part 1 on exposition, which usually means we don't get to the truly dark side of any given film until part 2.
Yeah, truly.
If only we had all night. But don't worry. The brutal heat, kissin' outlaws, and mystical magical hexes of Camp Green Lake, plus a ton more production gems, are just around the corner.
Dude, I can't wait.
Yeah.
For the 4-hour director cut version
director's
of
cut, right? Who
part
knows
2.
how long we'll end up talking about it, but there will be so much. And I know we're teases. We're big old giant teases, and we like it, okay?
It's nice to be desired.
I'll make it worth the wait. Just like the Yelnats treasure.
Yeah. Wow, well, I cannot wait for next time. Super psyched to get into the movie.
I've only just barely started, really diving into my notes for it because there's so much that I want to talk about, and I'm anxious about doing a good job because this one's a big deal to me, you know?
Me too. We're saving space for it. We're carving out a large chunk of time for next episode. Pumped to get into the troubled teen industry a little bit and talk about the phenomenon
we'll have to do that
made this plot even possible to begin with. There's just so much there, which we'll say it again next time, but that was sort of the reason we decided to cover this summer specifically is because we a couple documentaries came out earlier this year and we were watching them and we just sort of said this is really important and very timely and I think we should just jump in and do it, and we were like, Holes is the right move, so yeah, let's do it.
There are just so many facets, and I think it opens a lot of doors for a lot of rabbit holes to go down.
Yeah, totally, because the people who grew up in camps like this, in scenarios like this, are now adults.
Yeah, telling their stories.
They're now telling their own stories because they kind of they have the hindsight to look back at it, and they have the knowledge and
see
the
how
wherewithal.
Up it was. Yeah,
exactly, to analyze it properly, get the appropriate amount of therapy.
Because unfortunately, not every troubled teen facility had the comeuppance that Camp Green Lake gets in this movie?
I'm going to say just about none of them.
Yeah.
Very few of them. So, yeah, really, really psyched to just dig in.
We're going to keep doing it. I'm really sorry.
Your face, you look so disappointed in me for a second.
I'm just like, here we are again.
Just can't help ourselves.
And if you are still here and willing to put up with us after we repeat the same puns and cliches over and over, you can join us on our Patreon. That is at patreon.com/TPD podcast.
That's right.
We have some new patron friends that we need to make sure we thank today that we very much appreciate.
Daniel N.
And Stephanie E.
Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for joining.
We appreciate you and we are glad you're here.
I can't tell you how warm my heart feels when we get those emails that say we have a new patron.
Me too. True joy.
Like another ounce of like, oh, there's hope. Aw, I think we can keep
There's
doing
hope in
this
the world.
for another couple episodes at least. Some people love us.
Yeah.
It's really
It's nice to feel loved.
It's great to see. We love to see it.
Thank you so very much for your support. If you would like to support us in that way, we would love to have you over there. If not, or in addition, you can also follow us on our social media. That's Pretty Dark Podcast on Instagram. That's Pretty Dark on TikTok.
Yeah.
Dig your own holes with us. We love chatting with y'all. You can also send us an email to that end at that'sprettyddarkpodcast@gmail.com.
Promise we're going to respond.
We'll answer it someday.
We'll reply eventually, yeah.
And as I said last time, either way, you are warming our hearts greatly when you do send those emails, so thank you.
Yeah, we need a little bit of warmth this summer. It's not quite
warm enough.
The heat index isn't as hot as we need it to be.
Sure, Jan. Well, thank you all for joining us for one of our absolute favorites in Holes. We hope that you love it just as much as we do, and we can't wait for all the part 2 darkness that's going to be coming your way.
It's going to be awesome.
Stay cool until then.
And remember, you're never really alone.
Never, ever, ever.
Thanks for listening to That's Pretty Dark, written and produced by Christian Baxter Mott and Kaylin Andrews.
Our music is composed by Jonathan Simmons, and our art is provided by Paige Garland at Power Girl Illustration.
Join the collective nostalgia and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That's Pretty Dark Podcast.
Share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood at that'sprettyddarkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.